When the black sheep awakens, one of the realizations that they'll come face to face with is all the dysfunction and toxicity that's been taking place in the background within the dysfunctional family. They will also be met with the fact that their energy has been siphoned and passed around to other members of the family to sustain the family, as well as all the toxic cycles that's been running within that family. In this video, we're discussing why the black sheep is always hoovered back into the dysfunctional family unit. But before we get into that, I'd like to take a moment to say hello and welcome to everyone. If you're new here, I go by the name Inspired Seeker. On this channel, we discuss spirituality, personal development, and narcissism. So if any of that appeals to you, or if you feel called to, then by all means join us, and I promise you will not regret that decision. Now, let's get into why the black sheep's energy is always needed within the dysfunctional family unit. Guys, in a previous video, I explained how the black sheep ended up becoming the black sheep of the family. They are the different one within the family. They are the one who is not like everyone else. They are the ones with the positive traits. They are the ones who embody the positive qualities. They are the empathic ones. They are the kind ones, the forgiving ones. And so all of these things coupled together will lead to them being picked on, will lead to them being bullied, will lead to them finding themselves isolated within their own family. Now, over the course of their lives, as the black sheep is growing up, they've always found themselves in the scapegoat position. They've always found themselves being blamed for everything that goes wrong within that family, because other members of that family refuse to take responsibility for their shortcomings, refuse to take responsibility for their actions and their lives. And so they always point the fingers at the black sheep. They always point the barrels at the black sheep. And this, guys, is one of the things that happens when the black sheep leaves the dysfunctional family unit. At some point post-awakening, the black sheep will come face to face with reality, which is the people that they thought loved them and cared about them don't really love or care about them. Their true colors will be shown post-awakening. And so the black sheep will begin to take steps to get away from the dysfunctional unit. The first thing that happens is that they will go into isolation to process this truth. Okay, they will distance themselves and go into isolation to process this truth. And while in isolation, guys, one of the things that will happen with the black sheep is that they will come face to face with who the members of their family really are. They'll come face to face with who people that they considered loved ones really are. Everyone's true colors, everyone's true identity will be shown. And so at this point here, the black sheep is faced with a decision to exit the family. And this is where it gets tricky for the dysfunctional family. As all these things are being revealed to the black sheep, it will prompt them to go into isolation. But not just that, they will begin to take their power back. Okay, they will begin to take their power back, and slowly they will begin to withdraw their energy from members of that unit, because now they will come to the realization that it's their energy that's been siphoned to fuel other members of that family. And so they'll begin to take their energy back. On an energetic level, this creates a massive shift within the dysfunctional family. And when the black sheep completely detach from that family, it will create another disruption within that family, to the extent that members of that family will begin pointing their fingers at one another, because they've essentially become accustomed to pointing the fingers at the black sheep for so long. They've become accustomed to blaming the black sheep for so long. They've become accustomed to pointing the barrels at the black sheep for so long, that when the black sheep detaches and there's nobody there to point the fingers at, they will turn on themselves and start blaming one another. They start fighting with one another, start arguing with one another, start pointing the fingers at one another, essentially. But this does not stop there, guys. They will attempt to create another black sheep within that family, which will usually by default may fall on the golden child. But that never lasts, because the golden child is never prepared or trained to be in such a position. Remember, they've been sheltered and they've been pampered. They've been the parents' favorite, so they're never prepared to play such a role. Okay, and so this will add to the dysfunction within the family. This will add to the disruption within the family on an energetic level. And to resolve this, the family will come together and attempt to get the black sheep back within that family. Okay, because they need the black sheep to play the role of the garbage can. They need the black sheep to absorb all the toxicity. They need the black sheep to absorb all that negative energy within that family. And so they will consult with one another, and they will begin to hoover the black sheep back into the family. And this usually starts with the dysfunctional parents reaching out to the black sheep and try to make amends with them. But oftentimes this attempt is not successful, because the black sheep has essentially realized who everyone is within that family. Everybody's true colors has been shown to the black sheep within that family. And so when this hoover attempt is made, the black sheep is usually not reluctant to come back to the unit. And this is when they will consult some more, and other members of the family will begin reaching out to the black sheep to get them back within the unit, because they need someone to fill that role. With the black sheep detaching, with the black sheep stepping away, it has left a gaping hole within that dysfunctional family. But not just that, on an energetic level, there's essentially a big gaping hole within that family, and they need someone to fill that gap. They need someone to fill this gaping hole, because they need someone to absorb all the toxicity. They need someone to absorb all that negative energy, because most of the time these members of that family are not equipped to deal with their own dysfunctions. They're not equipped to deal with their own toxicity. They're not equipped to deal with their own negative energy. And this is why they've always been pointing it at the black sheep. This is why they've always been throwing it on the black sheep, because the black sheep, as an empath, is able to absorb this energy and most of the time transmute it. Okay, but with them not being there, there's essentially a hole there. There's essentially no recipient for that negative energy, and so the energy will go back within that family, and most of the time it will cause destruction within that family. Members of that family will begin to fight amongst themselves, because the energy is too intense for them to handle, and most of the time they're not ready to deal with such intense energy. This is when you may see members of the family fighting with one another, arguing with one another, And sometimes some of the members of the family may collapse, especially the narcissistic parents at the top. They may collapse because they're not prepared to deal with such a big shift. They're not prepared to deal with such an intense energy within that family, because the black sheep have been the one to usually absorb this energy. And with them not being there, the energy is essentially stuck with the other members of that family. And most of the time, like I said, guys, they're not ready to deal with it. They're not prepared to deal with it. And so it will hit them very hard. And this is where they will begin fighting with one another. Or sometimes it may manifest itself in the form of accidents. It may manifest itself in the form of hospitalizations. It may manifest itself in the form of people getting really sick. In the worst case scenario, some of the members of that family may spiral down on a path of destruction because they're not equipped to deal with such intense negative energy. They're not prepared to deal with such energy. They will continue to get the black sheep back within the family. They will make up stories. They will reach out to the black sheep and make up stories about how the dysfunctional parents need to see them, how the dysfunctional parents really miss them, how the dysfunctional parents need their help, how the dysfunctional parents are sick. And so they'll do anything to get the black sheep back within that family because they need the black sheep to absorb this negative energy. So if you identify as a black sheep, my advice to you is to stay out and focus on your healing, because they want you back within the unit and they'll make up all types of stories to get you back within the unit, but not to do anything but to fill that role that you just left from, okay? To fill the scapegoat role so they can continue dumping garbage on you. They can continue pointing the barrels at you, so they can have somebody to blame for their own shortcomings, okay? And this will disrupt your healing process. This will disrupt your journey, because you will not be able to heal while you have to deal with problems within the dysfunctional family. The fact that you awaken and you going through your healing does not really matter to these people, guys, okay? It does not matter to these folks. They don't care if you're awakened. They don't care if you're healing. They need someone whom they can point the finger at. They need someone whom they can point the barrels at. They need someone whom they can dump the garbage on. And that's the role that you fill for them. And so you returning to that family is not going to stop them from doing exactly that. It's not going to slow them down. It's not going to stop them. They're not going to be considerate about your awakening. They're not going to be considerate about your healing. They're going to continue to point the barrels at you. They're going to continue to dump the garbage on you. And this will disrupt your healing process. All right. So the black sheep, your energy will always be needed within that dysfunctional family. And this is the reason why they're hoovering you, because when you leave a gaping hole within that family, and energetically, the family suffers a big loss, and it affects them in a lot of different ways, in a lot of negative ways. And so they need you back to absorb that intense energy for them to carry on the dysfunction, for them to carry on the toxic cycles. All right. So I hope I made it clear now. If you identify as a black sheep, then take a moment to share your thoughts and your experiences in the comment section. And if you're new here and you find value in this, then by all means stick around, because there should be another video or playlist popping up somewhere around my head here. Stick around and get more information on the spiritual awakening journey. Get more information on narcissism. Other than that, I'll leave this here, guys. Until next time, peace, love, and more life.